They say the Earth remembers its collisions. Roughly 50 million years ago, two giants met. The Indian subcontinent, drifting northward like a silent force of nature, slammed into Eurasia. It wasn't just a crash, it was a creation. The impact didn't simply lift land, it pushed the sky higher. From that immense, slow-motion upheaval, a new world rose. A vast, tilted wilderness, too high for trees, too cold for comfort, too remote for easy access. But in that thin air, something rare began to form. This is the Tibetan Plateau, a place geologists call the roof of the world. But to those who walk it, it's something else entirely. A land where silence has shape, where wind speaks in prayers, where mountains aren't just stone, but stories frozen into form. It stretches across a quarter of China and beyond. Higher than the Andes, the Rockies, even the Alps. But it isn't the height that defines Tibet. It's the stillness, the way light seems softer here, the way time feels older, the way belief has carved its home into every ridge and ravine. For centuries, this landscape has existed in near isolation, shielded not just by altitude, but by intention. And in that solitude, it has become something utterly singular, a spiritual geography where faith and terrain are one and the same. But this is not a place that reveals itself all at once. To understand it, you have to move slowly. Listen longer, and let the land tell you what it remembers. Because Tibet isn't just a place on the map, it's a threshold between earth and sky, between past and present, between what is seen and what is believed. So come with us, not just across mountains, but into myth, into memory, into a land where the planet's deepest breath still echoes through rock and prayer. This is the real Tibet, not the one from postcards, but the one most will never see. If the Tibetan Plateau is a giant table in the sky, then Chamo is the place where its edges begin to fold, bend, and break. Here in the eastern reaches of Tibet, just before the land unravels into the jungles of Yunnan and Myanmar, something extraordinary happens. Three of Asia's great rivers, the Mekong, the Salween, and the Yangtze, begin their descent from the heights, together. Not in parallel, but side by side, twisting through the same mountain range, like threads pulled through a single needle. Geologists call it a triple parallel river system, but standing here, that label feels too clinical. Because what you see in Chamo isn't just erosion, it's choreography. The rivers don't flow gently, they slice through jagged ridges and vertical cliffs, carving some of the world's deepest gorges. Each one a scar that tells a different story, a different rhythm, a different pace of time. This part of Tibet feels older, not just in the way the rocks look, but in how the land moves, slowly, deliberately, as if remembering every tectonic shift. The valleys here aren't just remote, they're sealed off, tucked away behind walls of stone that take days to cross. And in that isolation, culture has bloomed like alpine flowers, rare, colorful, and completely unique. The people of Chamo speak their own dialect, build monasteries in a style you won't see anywhere else, and follow spiritual traditions shaped more by rivers and mountains than by cities or politics. Long before there were maps, this region was a crucial link in the ancient Tea-Horse Road, a trade network that once rivaled the Silk Road in influence. Caravans would climb the high passes from Yunnan, their loads packed with bricks of fermented pu-erh tea. But they carried more than goods. They carried ideas, chants, scrolls, stories, traveling west toward Lhasa and beyond. The tea was valued, but what it brought with it, connection, curiosity, belief, was priceless. And the road? It was never straight. It wound with the rivers, followed the cliffs, rose and fell with the pulse of the land, just like the faith it helped carry. Today, much of the T-Horse Road has faded into memory, but if you walk long enough through these valleys, you can still find its traces. Stone steps, worn smooth by hooves, prayer walls, etched with wind-softened mantras, footpaths that disappear into the forest, then reappear higher up, like ghosts, guiding the way forward. In Chamo, movement isn't always forward. Sometimes it's circular, like the whirlpool patterns in the river, like the way stories are told, starting in the middle, spiraling outward, then returning to the heart. Here, devotion doesn't shout, it hums, in the way people greet the morning with a turn of the prayer wheel, in the rhythm of footsteps up steep passes, in the silence that falls over the valley at dusk, when the mountains swallow the last light and the rivers turn to silver. This is a place where geography and spirituality meet, not in temples, but in terrain. The sacred isn't built. It's carved, by time, by water, by the steady hand of patience. And if you listen closely, you'll hear it, the pulse beneath the rock, the echo of three great rivers, running together, parting ways, and shaping a world most will never know. The old paths never truly disappear, they just change shape. In the folds of these eastern mountains, the ancient T-Horse Road once moved like a vein through the highlands. It wasn't paved, it wasn't marked, but it connected worlds. From the misty tea fields of Yunnan to the spiritual heart of Tibet, the route was a lifeline, linking traders, pilgrims, monks, and muleteers. It was slow, winding, unforgiving, but it pulsed with meaning. Caravans carried bricks of fermented tea westward, while in return, strong mountain horses, nimble and enduring, traveled east. But what flowed along this path wasn't just commerce. It was memory. It was movement. It was culture crossing mountains in woolen boots. Even now, centuries later, you can feel it in the quiet urgency of the wind, in the way travelers still pause at shrines along switchbacks, offering prayers not just for safety, but for the grace to keep going. And yet, like all things, Tibet has shifted. Today, a different kind of road cuts across these same ancient lands. Bolder, louder, impossible to ignore. National Highway 318, one of China's longest and most iconic roads, stretching more than 5,000 kilometers from the sea-soaked skyline of Shanghai to the mountainous borderlands near Nepal. It slices through mountains that once resisted all intrusion, follows river gorges that once swallowed unprepared travelers whole. But this road doesn't just pass through Tibet, it transforms how people move, how they connect, and how they remember. It's easy to mistake it for progress. Paved lanes, steel guardrails, rumbling trucks, a modern artery through an ancient body. But the truth is more complicated. Because in the Tibetan section, particularly the stretch that winds from Chamo toward Lhasa, Highway 318 becomes something else. Locals call it the road to heaven, and not just for the views. It climbs over a dozen high-altitude passes, each one a threshold between worlds, between what is known and what must be felt. You don't just drive this road, you endure it. There are places where the tarmac hugs cliff faces so tightly you can feel the mountain breathe. Other stretches vanish under snowdrifts or rock falls. Some days, clouds descend and wrap the road in silence. Other days, the sun hits the prayer flags just right, and the whole world feels like it's suspended in devotion. But for many, this road is more than a route. It's a pilgrimage. You'll see them, travelers moving not in vehicles, but on foot. Some walk the entire Tibetan stretch, step by aching step, turning the journey itself into an offering. They don't rush. They spin prayer wheels. They recite mantras under their breath. They pause at mountain shrines and sleep under skies so clear you can hear the stars. For them, the road is sacred, not because of where it leads, but because of how it demands presence. Even as motorbikes roar past and concrete encroaches, there's a deeper rhythm at play, one inherited from the old road, one that can't be mapped. Because what connects the T-Horse Road and Highway 318 isn't just geography, it's the act of crossing from the known to the unknown, from the self to something larger. And somewhere between mile markers and mountain passes, you begin to understand, in Tibet, every journey is a prayer in motion. The higher you climb, the quieter everything becomes. Not just the air, but the mind. And perhaps that's the point. As Highway 318 winds deeper into the mountains, past the familiar, and into the fragile, it stops feeling like a road and starts feeling like a threshold between worlds, between the body's limits and the soul's longing. They call this stretch the road to heaven, not because of marketing, because of reverence. Because somewhere along these switchbacks and frozen valleys, people stop traveling for distance and start walking for meaning. One step, one breath, one prayer at a time. The elevation here is brutal, over 4,000 meters. The oxygen thins, the temperature drops, and yet the road keeps climbing. So do the pilgrims. Some have walked for weeks, others for months, all headed west, all bound for Lhasa or Kailash, or a sacred place known only to their hearts. You see them wrapped in layers of wool, faces burned from wind and sun, moving in slow, deliberate rhythm. Some carry nothing but a prayer wheel. Others stop every few steps to prostrate fully, hands, knees, chest, forehead, measuring the journey with their entire body. Each step is a vow, each fall to the ground a surrender, not to weakness, but to devotion. And it's not just the people that speak of faith here. The land does too. There are places where the cliffs are lined with mani stones, flat rocks carved with Buddhist prayers, swept like pages of a book the earth has decided to keep open. They sit by the roadside like quiet guardians, watching all who pass. A reminder that every journey here is sacred, even the accidental ones. You might be driving a truck or riding a bus. You might not believe in anything at all. But in these mountains, belief doesn't ask for permission. It simply rises with the mist, wraps itself around your bones, and waits. Prayer flags stretch across the road in brilliant color, blue for sky, white for air, red for fire, green for water, yellow for earth. They flap in the wind like breaths of the mountain itself, sending silent blessings in every direction. You pass glacial rivers that run like veins through the stone, peaks so tall they seem to pierce the firmament, and small roadside shrines adorned with butter lamps, yak skulls, and strands of wool, offering not protection, but permission to continue, to believe, to endure. Because here, endurance is a form of worship. To keep walking, even when the lungs scream and the feet split open, that is a kind of prayer no words can hold. And yet, there is joy in it too. Not the joy of arrival, but the joy of offering, of moving through the world with purpose that cannot be bought or taught, only carried. As you watch the pilgrims disappear into the distance, their silhouettes small against a backdrop of towering stone, you begin to understand something unspoken, that maybe the road itself isn't the destination. Maybe the hardship, the repetition, the silence is the point. Because on the road to heaven, faith isn't just found at the end. It's built, step by step, breath by breath, between the pulse of your body and the stillness of the land. Further along the road, just when you think you've seen all the forms devotion can take, the mountains begin to part, and something unexpected emerges from the red stone cliffs. It doesn't shine, it doesn't soar, but it stops you just the same. Terraced into the rock like a mosaic built by patience, lie hundreds of salt pans, flat, geometric pools carved into layers of crimson earth, their surfaces glistening under the sun. This is Markham, and these are the ancient salt fields, still alive, still working, still sacred. They've been here for over 1,300 years, but they don't feel like relics. They feel rhythmic, as if the land breathes through them. Each pan is cared for by a local family, not owned exactly, but inherited, passed down like a story, like a responsibility. Here, salt is not just a mineral, it's a blessing, drawn from the bones of the earth. But what's even more striking is how the work begins. Not with tools, with rituals. Before a new season starts, families gather to pray, to the land, to their ancestors, to the unseen spirits that dwell in the spring. They offer barley, they burn incense. They ask not just for yield, but for harmony. The salt doesn't come from the river. It rises from a sacred hot spring nearby, a place believed to hold elemental power. The water is channeled down through narrow troughs, guided carefully into each pan, where it evaporates under the Tibetan sun, leaving behind crystals as white as snow. And so, day by day, with bare hands and worn tools, the people of Markham gather salt, as their ancestors did. No machines, no shortcuts, only patience, balance, and faith. To an outsider, it might look like labor, but to those who live it, it's karma, a duty, a form of devotion, passed not just through blood, but through the land itself. You can see it in the movements, slow, steady, deliberate. No one rushes. They work with the sun and stop when the wind shifts. It's less of a job, more of a rhythm. And when evening comes, the terraces blush pink in the dying light. The salt glows, the cliffs reflect fire, and for a moment, the whole valley feels like a prayer being answered. It's hard to believe something so beautiful comes from something so simple. But maybe that's the lesson of Markham, that the sacred doesn't always reside in temples or texts. Sometimes it lives in repetition, in the echo of footsteps passed down over centuries, in the quiet resilience of hands that keep doing the same thing, year after year, not for profit, but because it's who they are. In old Tibet, Markham's salt was more valuable than silver. It was packed into bundles, strapped to yak caravans, and carried west, across treacherous mountain passes. Some of it reached Lhasa, some even made it to India, but no matter how far it traveled, it always carried the taste of this place, of red cliffs, prayer smoke, and sun-warmed stone. Even now, if you stand among the salt pans and close your eyes, you can feel it, a stillness so complete, it hums. You begin to understand, the salt isn't what makes this place sacred, it's the people, the way they move, the way they remember, the way they turn the act of harvesting into a kind of hymn. In Markham, faith is not recited, it is worked, lifted, carried, crystallized. Leaving behind the salt fields of Markham, the road begins to climb, sharply, suddenly, without warning. The landscape tilts, the air turns colder, and then the bends begin. 1, 2, 20, 30. By the time you're halfway through, you've lost count. This is the Jang 72 bends, a serpent of asphalt and gravel, carved into the face of a nearly vertical cliff. A descent of over 1,000 meters, folded into 72 hairpin turns so tight they feel more like questions than curves. No guardrails, no forgiveness, only a narrow ribbon of road clinging to rock that was never meant to be touched. From above, the whole thing looks impossible, like someone took a thread, tossed it down a mountain, and called it a highway. But it's very real, and very dangerous. Landslides are common. Visibility changes by the minute, and when mist rolls in, which it often does, you can't see more than a few feet ahead. The edge? You'll feel it before you see it. There are places where the cliff drops straight for hundreds of meters, and others where the road narrows to a point where two cars cannot pass. Someone will have to reverse, sometimes for kilometers. For truckers, this stretch is a test of nerves. For locals, it's a necessary evil. For pilgrims, it's something else entirely. Because, astonishingly, some choose to walk this road. Not because they have to, but because they believe they must. To cleanse karma, to confront fear, to offer every heartbeat as a kind of penance. You'll see them, small figures wrapped in dust-colored robes, pressing their bodies flat against the rock when a bus barrels past. Their eyes steady, their steps deliberate. They walk without haste, without headphones, without complaint. Some are old, some are barefoot, but all of them know exactly where they're going and why. The wind screams through this gorge. It rips at prayer flags, whips dust into your eyes, and howls between the switchbacks like a voice that's forgotten how to speak softly. And yet, amid the roar, you'll see something that makes you stop. At the outer edges of the turns, where the drop is steepest, lie flat stones, each one hand-carved with Tibetan prayers. Om Mani Padme Hum, etched again and again like a whispered protection against the void. They're placed there deliberately, not as decoration, as blessing, as memory, as warning. These are the Mani stones, quiet companions for those who pass. They do not speak, but they do listen. Some have been here for decades, others for centuries. Each one carries the breath of someone who stopped long enough to hope that this curve, this moment, this road would not be their last. In the language of the land, these curves are more than asphalt. They are pilgrimage in motion, the embodiment of the Buddhist idea that the path to awakening is not straight, but winding, treacherous, and lined with lessons. For those who walk it, fear is not an obstacle. It's part of the practice. To place your foot down where others might tremble, to meet the edge and not flinch, to keep going when logic says stop. That's what makes this road sacred. Not the view, though it is breathtaking. Not the engineering, though it is mind-bending. But the way it demands presence. Real, immediate, unwavering presence. Every turn strips something away. A bit of ego, a bit of comfort, until what's left is just you and the road, and whatever you believe waits on the other side. By the time the 72nd bend comes, you don't feel triumphant, you feel quiet. Because the real descent wasn't through altitude, it was through self. After the last of Jang's bends disappears behind you, the road softens. Not in terrain, but in energy. There's a stillness here that feels different, like something waiting. The town of Ding appears almost without warning. A scatter of buildings pressed against the land as if even architecture here understands how to be humble. There's no grand welcome, no gates, no signs, just wind and silence. It's a kind of silence that doesn't feel empty. It feels watchful, as if the mountains are listening. And maybe they are, because just beyond Ding, the land begins to shift again. The air turns metallic, dry as ancient paper, and then they rise, the red mountains, jagged, rusted, unapologetically alive. They don't roll like hills. They erupt, sharp ridgelines stained with iron, peaks serrated like broken glass. The sun doesn't just shine here, it ignites. Every ridge glows with fire-red intensity. Every shadow deepens into something mythic. Locals say these cliffs are sacred, not because someone built a monastery here, but because someone didn't. because no one dared. They say guardian spirits live among the ridges, that the wind here doesn't just howl, it speaks, that sometimes, when the light hits just right, you can see faces in the rock, not imagined, etched, eyes, cheeks, mouths open in silent chant. Some say they're deities, others say they're ancestors who chose to stay. You won't find marked trails here. No tour buses, no souvenir shops, just faint paths traced by herders and pilgrims who pass quietly, as if afraid to disturb something sacred. And sacred it is, not in the way of temples or scriptures, but in the raw, unfiltered presence of being. Standing here, among these rust-colored monoliths, you feel it in your chest. A pressure, not of fear, but reverence, as if the earth has memory, and it remembers everything. At a distance, the cliffs look hostile, but up close, they breathe. Veins of mineral trace across their faces like age lines. Small caves yawn open in the rock, natural or carved, it's hard to tell. Some contain stacks of mani stones, left by hands that no longer live, but never really left. You realize this place isn't empty. It's inhabited, not by people, but by presence. The Red Mountains are not trying to impress you. They don't care if you understand them. They just are. And in that, they teach something rare. How to exist without explanation. How to hold silence as a kind of truth. If you stay long enough, you begin to match their rhythm. Your thoughts slow. Your breathing deepens. Even the wind in your ears starts to feel like language. This is not a stop on a map. It's a pause in your being. Ding is the kind of place that doesn't ask you to arrive. It waits for you to be ready. And when you leave, if you leave, you take something with you. Not a souvenir, not a photo, but a weightless understanding that not all sacred places need a name. Some just need space. And if you listen closely, the cliffs will offer it. In wind, in silence, in stone. Climbing beyond Ding, the road doesn't so much lead forward as it vanishes. Pavement fades into dust. Guardrails disappear. The world narrows, not in space, but in sound. The wind becomes your only companion, and even that grows quiet the higher you go. There are no signs to tell you where you're headed, only stone cairns, fluttering prayer flags, and a sense that you're moving towards something you can't quite name. And then, suddenly, you see it, half hidden in the clouds, clinging to a vertical wall of rust-colored rock, as if suspended in air. Zogong Monastery. It doesn't announce itself. There's no grand gate, no ceremonial approach. Just a small trail etched into the cliffside, barely wide enough for one careful foot at a time. It looks impossible, and in many ways, it is. At nearly 5,000 meters above sea level, Zogong is the highest monastery on Earth. But altitude isn't what makes it extraordinary. Isolation is. Built directly into the mountainside, with no visible road in or out, Zogong is less a structure and more a surrender. A surrender to stillness, to silence, to the vastness that lives between breath and stone. No sound of engines reaches here. No signal, no commerce, only wind and time. Monks and nuns live here in near total solitude, some for months, some for years, a few for life. They occupy tiny hermitages tucked into the rock, rooms barely large enough to lie down. No heat, no electricity, just candlelight, yak butter lamps, and the endless hum of their own thoughts. You might wonder, why here? Why live on the edge of survival? But then you step into the air and it answers you. Because in this place, everything unnecessary falls away. Noise, desire, distraction, even identity. What remains is essence, a kind of spiritual distillation only possible when nothing else is left. It's said that the purpose of Zogong is not to escape the world, but to see it more clearly, from above. Not geographically, but inwardly. This is the great paradox of Tibet. The higher you go, the deeper you descend. Into self, into surrender, into silence. From the monastery's ledge, the view is beyond comprehension. Peaks stretch to every horizon. Clouds drift below your feet. The sky feels close enough to touch, yet infinite all the same. And scattered across the surrounding cliffs are tiny stone huts, hermitages built by hand generations ago, now inhabited by those who seek not answers, but absence. It's said some of them haven't spoken in decades, that their silence is a form of prayer more potent than any mantra. In Tibetan tradition, this area near the sacred mountains has long been a place for solitary retreat, not to escape the world, but to strip it away until only the soul remains. Getting here is nearly impossible. In winter, the trail disappears completely. The winds howl like spirits, and snow walls off the mountain for weeks. Getting here is nearly impossible. In winter, the trail disappears completely. The winds howl like spirits, and snow walls off the mountain for weeks at a time. But for those who reach it, Zogong is not just a destination, it's a transformation. You don't arrive here to visit, you arrive to disappear. Because in a world filled with noise and urgency, there is something radical, something quietly revolutionary about choosing stillness, about stepping back until even the self fades. And in that fading, perhaps something greater is revealed. Here at Zogong, you don't find peace, you become it. After the heights of Zogong, where silence pressed against your bones and the world felt stripped bare, the land begins to shift once more. You descend slowly, and with each step downward, the air thickens, the light warms, and suddenly, almost without warning, Tibet reveals a softer face. This is Nyingchi, a region so lush, so unexpectedly green, that travelers often call it the Switzerland of Tibet. But that nickname, while flattering, doesn't capture its truth. Because Nyingchi is not an echo of somewhere else. It is its own wonder, an oasis of life on the world's highest plateau. Here, the altitude drops to just under 3,000 meters, low by Tibetan standards, but high enough to feel the sky lean close. And in that band of elevation, something extraordinary happens. Forests take root, moisture gathers, and the plateau, usually defined by wind and stone, suddenly bursts into color. Towering peaks still loom in every direction, their caps white with eternal snow. But beneath them, valleys unfurl into dense alpine forests, rivers carve deep canyons, and meadows shimmer with wildflowers. It feels improbable, as if two worlds collided and refused to let go. The high Himalayas and the subtropical jungles of Southeast Asia. Here they meet, here they blend, and nowhere else on Earth does the fusion look quite like this. The Yarlung Tsangpo River, which further west will carve the deepest canyon on the planet, flows calmly here, its banks lined with pine and cypress, its waters alive with trout. Villages dot the valleys, their fields a checkerboard of barley, apples, and peaches. You can smell smoke from hearth fires mixing with the scent of cedar. The land feels lived in, nurturing, intimate. To come into Nyingchi after the high plateau is to feel your body exhale. The cold austerity of Tibet gives way to something gentler, a place where people smile more easily, where crops grow with less struggle, where even the animals seem to linger instead of hurry. And yet, the sacred still threads through everything. Prayer flags still bridge the rivers. Monasteries still perch on ridges. But here the devotion feels softer, more woven into the rhythm of everyday life than carved into cliffs or shouted against wind. Spring in Nyingchi is unlike anywhere else in Tibet. While the highlands remain locked in ice, this valley wakes. Cherry blossoms spill across slopes, their delicate pink petals falling like confetti against a backdrop of snow. Forests buzz with insects. Birdsong returns. It's as if the land itself remembers joy. And it's not just beauty that sets Nyingchi apart. It's contrast. It's the reminder that Tibet is not a single image of barren peaks and frozen plains. but a vast tapestry, where even on the roof of the world, life can flourish in dazzling abundance. Travelers often say Nyingchi feels like a dream you weren't expecting to have, one where mountains wear crowns of ice, but their feet are washed in rivers so fertile they glow emerald, where every bend in the valley feels like it holds a secret, a waterfall tucked in shadow, a meadow kissed by light, a quiet village where laughter drifts with the smoke. And as you walk through this landscape, you realize the name Switzerland of Tibet is too small. Because Switzerland does not have this blend of stillness and myth, of alpine forest and sacred mountain. This is something else, something rarer. Nyingchi is not a comparison, it is a revelation. A reminder that even on the harshest plateau on earth, there are valleys where tenderness survives, where the land itself whispers, not of endurance, but of renewal. Beyond the soft meadows and blossoming trees of Nyingchi, the land fractures. The Yarlung Tsangpo, calm and steady in the valleys above, suddenly hurls itself into chaos. The river tightens, the walls close in, and the earth seems to break open under its weight. This is the Yarlung Tsangpo Gorge, the deepest canyon on earth. More than 5,300 meters from rim to river, deeper than the Grand Canyon, wilder than most of us can imagine. Here, the Himalayas don't just rise, they collapse, folding into rainforest, crashing into cliffs, shattering into landslides that reshape the slopes year after year. It feels less like a canyon and more like a scar across the planet's face. Rain from the Indian monsoon feeds this chasm, swelling the river into a force that pounds against rock like a drumbeat. Mist clings to the ridgelines, thick, heavy, alive. At times it hides everything. At others it pulls back like a curtain, revealing walls of stone so sheer they seem impossible. Few people have ever ventured into its depths. The terrain is too steep, the weather too unpredictable, the river too violent. Explorers call it the last great uncharted gorge for a reason, because much of it remains unseen. A mystery even in the age of satellites and drones. And yet, standing at its rim, you don't feel absence. You feel presence. Raw, untamed presence. The kind that reminds you how fragile human plans are. At the heart of the gorge, the river performs a feat so dramatic, it borders on myth. It curves, not slightly, but a full 180 degrees, wrapping itself around a towering sentinel, Namcha Barwa. Rising to 7,782 meters, Namcha Barwa is the easternmost Himalayan giant and one of the least climbed. Locals call it the Shy Mountain because its peak is almost always hidden in cloud. But in Tibetan tradition, it's more than shy, it's sacred. A male deity, the spear that pierces the sky, guardian of Pamako, a hidden land of spiritual awakening, said to lie beyond the veil of this gorge. Pilgrims believe only those with pure karma can glimpse Namcha Barwa clearly. Most will never see its summit. But when the clouds do part, just for a breath, the mountain rises like a vision, reminding you that some things are not meant to be conquered, only revered. The gorge itself is a paradox, violent yet fertile, hostile yet alive. Alpine peaks crash into subtropical forest. Glaciers feed waterfalls that vanish into jungle. And along the slopes, landslides redraw the map year after year, as if the earth here refuses permanence. It's not just nature, it's creation in motion. Travelers who make it to Sajila Pass, a high point above the gorge, say the view feels unreal, as if the world forgot its rules here. Prayer flags line the pass in brilliant waves of color, their fabrics snapping in winds that taste of snow and rain. Each flag carries an offering: blue for sky, white for air, red for fire, green for water, yellow for earth. Their colors lifted into the clouds, as if trying to speak to the unseen forces that govern this land. Here, the material and spiritual worlds blur. You look down into the gorge, and it's not just geology. It's a threshold between what is known and what refuses to be known. The Yarlung Tsangpo Gorge is not a place to conquer, it's a place to confront. A reminder that there are still corners of this earth where maps don't hold authority, and where the land itself chooses to remain wild. And maybe that's why it feels so important. Because in a world where almost everything has been measured, named, photographed, here lies a place that resists, a canyon that says, not yet, not fully, not everything must belong to us. Standing at its edge, you don't feel like you've arrived. You feel like you've been invited, briefly, humbly, into a secret the earth is still keeping. The canyon curves like a question mark, and at the bend stands the answer. Namcha Barwa, the mountain that hides, the peak that rarely shows its face. At 7,782 meters, it is taller than almost every summit on Earth, yet few have ever seen it clearly. It remains veiled in clouds for most of the year, a silhouette glimpsed only in fragments, a shoulder here, a slope there, never the whole form. That's why Tibetans call it the Shy Mountain. But shyness is only the surface. Beneath it lies something deeper: reverence, fear, faith. In Tibetan belief, Namcha Barwa is not just stone, it is a deity, a spear piercing the sky, a guardian of Pemako, the hidden land said to exist just beyond this gorge, a place where the material world dissolves and awakening begins. Locals will tell you, the mountain chooses who may see it. If the clouds part and the summit appears, it means your karma is clean, your spirit aligned. For most, the peak never reveals itself, but when it does, the sight is unforgettable. A white pyramid rising above the horizon, glowing like a vision in air too thin to breathe. Climbers, of course, have tried to claim it, and some succeeded, but even they describe the mountain with caution, as if conquest was the wrong word. Because here, climbing feels less like achievement and more like trespassing. The truth is, Namcha Barwa doesn't need conquering. It needs witnessing. From Sajila Pass, one of the rare places where the clouds sometimes break, you can stand among prayer flags that whip and crack in the high wind. Their colors, blue, white, red, green, yellow, fluttering like the very elements themselves. They rise above the valley not as decoration, but as conversation, a dialogue between people and sky. The wind carries them, lifting each prayer across the gorge toward the mountain's hidden face. And as you watch, it's easy to feel small. Not in the way that diminishes you, but in the way that connects you, to scale, to story, to something beyond comprehension. Because Namcha Barwa isn't shy at all. It's intentional. Its silence is its language, its concealment, its gift. Every culture needs a place it cannot fully know, a mystery to hold, a presence that humbles. For Tibet, Namcha Barwa is that presence. Here the physical and the spiritual blur. The mountain is both matter and metaphor, a reminder that some truths can't be owned, only glimpsed. As the clouds close again, swallowing the peak back into absence, you realize that maybe seeing it clearly was never the point. Maybe the real lesson lies in the waiting, in the faith that something extraordinary is there, even when hidden. Namcha Barwa stands as proof. Not all greatness is visible. Not all power needs to be loud. Sometimes the most sacred things are the ones that remain veiled, patient, and eternal. Not far from where Namcha Barwa hides in cloud, the landscape softens again. The cliffs step back, the air warms, and something unexpected appears. In late March, when the plateau is still locked in ice, this valley bursts into bloom. Peach trees, thousands of them, spread across the highland fields, their branches heavy with fragile pink petals. They bloom against a backdrop of snow-capped peaks, delicate colors set against jagged white stone. It feels impossible, and that impossibility is what makes it magical. The Tibetans call it the Peach Blossom Valley. To them, it is more than beauty. It is renewal. A reminder that even here, at the edge of survival, life insists. Families, pilgrims, and travelers gather quietly, not to celebrate with noise, but to witness. Children run through orchards. Elders sit in the grass. Prayer flags hang heavy with winter's dust. Yet the blossoms lift everything toward spring. It lasts only a few weeks. By April, the petals begin to fall, scattering like pink snow across the fields. The mountains remain eternal, but the valley whispers of change, of return, of beginnings. In Tibet, the sacred is often found in stone, in silence, in endurance. But here, it reveals itself in something gentler. A flower so fragile, you could crush it between your fingers, and yet powerful enough to transform an entire valley. Standing among the blossoms, with the white silhouette of Namcha Barwa looming above, you realize that faith is not always heavy. Sometimes it's light as a petal carried by wind, falling softly, but never forgotten. Leaving behind the blossoms of Nyingchi feels like stepping out of a dream. The warmth, the color, the gentleness, all of it fades with every mile west. The land rises again, the air thins, and suddenly, the world feels stripped bare. This is Ali, the western reaches of Tibet. Often called the roof of the world. And when you stand here, you understand why. At over 4,500 meters, Ali is not a landscape you simply see. It is one you endure. Wind-swept plains stretch to horizons with no end. Glacial lakes shimmer like mirrors abandoned in the desert. The silence is so vast it feels alive. Here, emptiness becomes presence, and presence becomes weight. It is easy to mistake this place for desolation, but stay longer, and you begin to notice something else. The curve of a dune sculpted by centuries of wind. The way a single yak caravan moves like a black thread across a golden plain. The sudden flash of wild antelope disappearing into nothingness. Ali doesn't reveal itself with abundance. It speaks in scarcity. Every detail matters. Every horizon feels eternal. Travelers call this region the third pole, a desert frozen not in sand, but in altitude. It is a place of extremes. Sun that burns in daylight, cold that cuts like glass at night. 4 seasons can pass here in a single day, and through it all, the wind never stops. But within that brutality lies something profound, because in Ali, you cannot distract yourself. There is no noise to hide in, no forest to disappear into, no crowd to blend with, only sky, only earth, only you. And it is in that exposure that the sacred emerges. Nomads believe this is where the veil between worlds thins, that silence itself becomes a form of prayer, that to survive here is to be reminded of how small we are and how vast existence really is. Ali is not a place that welcomes you, it tests you, it strips you. But in that stripping, it offers something rare. Clarity. Standing in the middle of this high desert, you feel it. The weight of the sky pressing down, the pull of the earth rising up, and yourself suspended between. Here, on the roof of the world, the ordinary dissolves, and what remains is essence, raw, unadorned, and unforgettable. In the far reaches of Ali, where the desert seems endless and the silence feels unbreakable, the land shifts once more. At first, it looks like a mirage, shadows on the horizon, outlines too precise to be natural. And then, as you draw closer, you realize they are not illusions. They are towers. This is the Jada Earth Forest, a labyrinth of jagged mudstone spires, rising in clusters like the skeletons of forgotten giants. Some stretch 40 meters high, others twist and curve as if frozen mid-movement, like flames that solidified in air. From a distance, it resembles a ruined city. Avenues of cliffs, corridors of shadow, arches and stairways carved not by human hands, but by wind, water, and time. Locals whisper that these cliffs were once palaces, turned to stone by gods in anger or sorrow. And standing among them, it isn't hard to believe. When the sun sinks low, the spires cast long shadows that look like sentinels, watching silently over what remains. The Earth Forest is not quiet. The wind moves through it like breath, whistling across narrow canyons, rattling loose stones down unseen paths. Every gust sounds like a voice. Every echo feels like memory. It is easy to get lost here. The formations stretch in every direction, confusing the sense of scale. You wander through arches, around pillars, into dead ends where cliffs close like locked doors. It feels less like walking through geology and more like trespassing in a city that does not want to be disturbed. At dusk, the colors shift. The walls glow red, then orange, then fade into violet shadows. The entire forest seems to breathe with the setting sun, as if alive. Some say the Earth Forest holds spirits. Others believe it guards the secrets of a vanished civilization. But perhaps the truth is simpler, that time itself lives here, layered into every wall, every crack, every curve shaped by wind. Because when you stand in the Jada Earth Forest, you don't just see stone. You see story. You see the patience of the planet, writing in a language older than words. And in that recognition, the city of stone no longer feels lifeless. It feels eternal. Deeper inside the Earth Forest, the stone formations begin to change. The spires soften into walls. The cliffs open into terraces. And then, almost hidden among the shadows, you see it, the outline of something unmistakably human, the ruins of Guge. Once, 1,000 years ago, this was a kingdom, a thriving seat of power on the Western Plateau, its palaces and monasteries clinging to these very cliffs. Now it is a ghost, a city carved into stone, half reclaimed by the desert that once obeyed it. The approach feels cinematic. Red rock walls rise on both sides, crumbling staircases zigzag upward, leading to chambers and caves high above. Everywhere you look, you see remnants, arches, windows, doorways, all carved directly from the mountain itself. Inside the caves, faded murals still cling to the walls, Buddhas outlined in red and gold, mandalas still vibrant despite centuries of dust, prayer niches carved into corners, fragments of statues, whispers of devotion frozen in pigment and stone. It is beautiful and unsettling, because Guge was not meant to vanish. It was powerful. It held armies, trade, monasteries, scholars, and then suddenly it fell. No one agrees why. Some say invasion and betrayal hollowed it from within. Others believe it declined spiritually, its leaders straying from devotion, until the desert swallowed what was left. Standing here, it's hard to separate history from legend, because the silence feels deliberate, as if the land itself has chosen to keep the truth hidden. All that remains is atmosphere, walls that echo with absence, corridors that lead nowhere, caves that once held light, now filled only with dust. Yet even in ruin, Guge carries a strange vitality. You can feel it in the brush of wind across the murals, in the way shadows cling to stairways, in the uncanny sense that someone, somewhere, is still watching. The desert may have claimed the kingdom, but the spirit of Guge endures. Not as power, but as memory, not as empire, but as lesson, that even the mightiest cities, fortresses carved from mountain, palaces painted with gods, can dissolve into silence, that stone itself can betray permanence. And perhaps that is why Guge feels sacred still, not because it triumphed, but because it reminds us that nothing lasts forever, that the desert wins in the end. And yet, in the ruins, we glimpse what once was, a kingdom built on faith, lost to time, but still alive in the breath of the wind that moves through its empty halls. Beyond the ruins of Guge, the silence grows heavier. It feels as though the land itself is guiding you, pulling you westward, towards something greater than kingdoms, greater than time. And then, on the horizon, it rises. Mount Kailash. 6,638 meters of perfect symmetry, a pyramid of stone and ice, gleaming like a jewel set against the endless sky. It is not the tallest mountain in the Himalayas, not even close, but for millions across Asia, it is the most sacred. Buddhists, Hindus, Jains, and followers of the ancient Bon tradition all see Kailash as the center of the universe, the axis mundi, where heaven and earth meet. Its four faces align precisely with the cardinal directions. From its slopes, four great rivers emerge: the Indus, the Sutlej, the Brahmaputra, and the Karnali, lifelines for nearly half the continent, as if the mountain itself breathes water into the world. And yet, no one climbs Kailash, not because it cannot be climbed, but because it must not. To set foot on its summit would be sacrilege, a violation of the sacred order. Instead, pilgrims walk around it, a ritual known as the Kora, a 52-kilometer circumambulation believed to cleanse a lifetime of sins. To complete it 108 times is said to bring enlightenment itself. The path is harsh. It crosses frozen passes over 5,000 meters high. It winds along glacial streams. The air is thin, the wind merciless, but still they come. From every corner of Tibet, from India, from Nepal, from as far as Mongolia. Some walk with prayer wheels, some chant mantras with every step. Others prostrate themselves fully, stretching flat on the ground, rising and stepping forward the length of their bodies, over and over again, measuring the journey not in kilometers, but in devotion. It can take weeks, it can take years, but no one questions why. Because Kailash is not a mountain to be conquered, it is a mountain to be circled, to be honored, to be revered from below, always gazed upon, never stepped upon. Standing at its base, you understand, the silence is not empty. It vibrates. The mountain radiates a presence so strong it humbles without words. Empires fall, cities vanish, even kingdoms like Guge dissolve into dust. But Kailash endures, untouched, unshaken, a reminder that the sacred does not need permanence in stone or throne. It lives in belief, in ritual, in the mountain that stands, eternal against the sky. At the foot of Kailash, the mountain's shadow falls across water. Not a river, but a vast inland sea, Lake Manasarovar. In Tibetan belief, it is the most sacred lake in all of Asia, a mirror to the gods, a place where sky, mountain, and spirit converge. According to Hindu tradition, the god Brahma first conceived this lake in his mind, imagining its shape before it ever existed on earth. To touch its waters, it is said, is to wash away the karma of countless lifetimes. Even from a distance, the lake feels otherworldly. Its surface shifts with the wind, glittering under the high sun, reflecting clouds that drift like slow prayers. At dawn, the water burns gold. At dusk, it softens into silver. And in its stillness, Kailash hovers above, as if mountain and lake are two halves of the same soul. Pilgrims arrive after completing the mountain Kora, exhausted yet humbled. For them, the journey is not finished. They begin again, a second circumambulation, this time around the shoreline of Manasarovar. Some walk in silence, their reflection following them across the water. Others pause to kneel, scooping the icy surface into their hands, letting it run down their foreheads, a baptism of devotion. During the full moon of Sagadawa, it is believed that deities descend to bathe in the lake, that the water itself becomes blessed. And in that night, pilgrims gather along its banks, their chants rising into the cold air, their voices weaving with the wind. There are no walls here, no carved statues, no grand temples. The sacred lies only in the water, in the mountain that watches over it, and in the people who return again and again. If Kailash is permanence, a pillar that cannot be moved, then Manasarovar is renewal, fluid, ever-changing, a reminder that the divine is not always solid and immovable. Sometimes it shimmers, ripples, and vanishes in the play of light. Standing at the shore, the silence is almost too much to hold. The air thin, the wind sharp, the lake vast, and in its reflection, you catch a glimpse of yourself. Small, fleeting, yet somehow part of this eternal balance between stone and water, between earth and spirit. Beyond the sacred waters of Manasarovar, the land empties again. The warmth of the lake, the reflection of gods, all of it fades into a harsher silence. This is Changthang, a plateau so high and so vast that even the sky seems thinner here. Locals call it the roof of the roof, a land stripped to its essence, wind, stone, and distance. At over 4,500 meters, the air slices cold, the horizon stretches without mercy, and shelter is almost non-existent. Here, the seasons don't arrive in sequence, they collide. Snow in the morning, sun at noon, hail by evening, and frost again before nightfall. Tibetans say you can feel 4 seasons in a single day, and nowhere is that more true than here. To most, it feels uninhabitable, but Changthang is not empty. Nomads trace ancient routes across the plains, moving with their yaks and sheep in search of grazing land. Black yak hair tents brace against the gales, their edges frayed by decades of storms. Inside, a single fire burns low, the smoke curling into the thin air, a fragile defiance against the vastness outside. And beyond the tents, life stirs in wild forms. Tibetan antelope drift across the horizon like whispers of movement. Wild asses, kiang, gallop in herds, their hooves raising dust clouds that vanish into the wind. Snow leopards stalk silently among the ridges, almost never seen but always present. This wilderness is known as the No Man's Land, a stretch of more than 600,000 square kilometers, larger than France, emptier than any desert. There are no villages here, no permanent roads, no permanent anything. It is a place beyond possession, too fragile for settlement, too vast for conquest, and yet it is alive, not with human voices, but with the rhythm of earth itself. The cry of cranes carried on the wind, the sudden appearance of wild sheep cresting a ridge, the sound of silence so complete it feels like another element, as real as water, fire, air, or stone. To stand in Changthang is to stand at the edge of survival, but also at the edge of purity, because here, stripped of comfort, you begin to sense what life truly means. Not abundance, but persistence. Not noise, but breath. The winds cut deep, the nights fall hard, but the land endures, and so does the life within it, tenuous, fleeting, yet somehow eternal. From the windswept barrens of Changthang, the land begins to soften. The air, though still thin, feels warmer. The valleys widen, and for the first time in days you see fields, green and gold, rippling under a vast sky. This is Shigatse, the granary of Tibet. Here, barley sways in the wind like a living ocean, its rhythm steady, its resilience almost miraculous. At over 3,800 meters, this is among the highest farmland on Earth. Yet year after year, the harvest endures. The Yarlung River and its tributaries carve fertile valleys, bringing water to soil that might otherwise remain barren. Villages cluster along the banks, their whitewashed walls glowing under the sun. Smoke rises from rooftops. Children run between narrow lanes. It feels gentler here, as though life has found a way to slow down. But Shigatse is more than farmland. It is history. For centuries, this region rivaled Lhasa in power and influence. Fortresses once crowned its hills, their walls echoing with the weight of armies and kings. Even today, their silhouettes linger, stone guardians overlooking fields that have outlasted thrones. At the heart of the region stands Shigatse City. It feels both ancient and alive. Monasteries tower above, pilgrims walking their sacred circuits, spinning prayer wheels with each step. Farmers bow before the same shrines as nobles once did, binding earth and spirit together in quiet continuity. To wander here is to see balance, barley bending in the wind, rivers winding through valleys, prayer flags lifting devotion into the sky. Everything, land, faith, survival, woven into a single rhythm. Shigatse may not shock with extremes like the deserts or high passes. Its beauty is quieter, but in that quiet, you find the core of Tibet, a place where life persists not through dominance, but through harmony. From the barley fields of Shigatse, the land narrows into a valley where a single hill rises abruptly. At its summit stands Gyantse Fortress, stone walls wrapped around rock like a clenched fist. The fortress has watched this valley for centuries. Once it was a proud guardian of the trade routes between Lhasa and the west. Its towers cast long shadows across the fields below, reminders that faith was never the only power in Tibet. But in 1904, its story took a darker turn. British forces, armed with artillery and rifles, marched into this valley. Local defenders, with little more than swords and muskets, faced them from these walls. The clash was brutal. Gunfire against stone, fire against faith. When the smoke cleared, the fortress bore scars that remain visible even now. Cracked ramparts, scorched stone, silent witnesses to courage and loss. Yet Gyantse is not only a place of battle. At its foot lies something very different. Palkhor Monastery. Here, instead of weapons, there are prayer wheels. Instead of soldiers, pilgrims. And instead of division, there is unity. Palkhor is unique in Tibet. It brings together three great traditions of Buddhism, Gelug, Sakya, and Kagyu, under one roof. Its heart is the towering Kumbum Stupa, 9 tiers high, with 108 chapels spiraling upward like a walkable mandala. Each level is painted with deities, symbols, and teachings, a universe of devotion laid out in stone and color. To walk through the Kumbum is to ascend not just physically, but spiritually. Each chamber a new layer of understanding, each step a movement toward enlightenment. Together, the fortress and the monastery embody Tibet's dual legacy: conflict and devotion, division and harmony. The scars of battle above, the prayers of peace below. And standing here, you feel both truths at once. That Tibet's history is not only written in blood, but also in the persistent desire to reconcile, to weave faith into the wounds of time, and to let the sacred rise even where walls have fallen. Leaving Gyantse behind, the road begins to climb, at first gently, then sharper, and soon it feels less like a road and more like a test. The path twists back on itself, again and again, etched into the mountainside like a calligraphy of stone. By the time you've counted far enough to lose track, you realize there are 108 turns in all. In Tibetan tradition, 108 is no ordinary number. It marks the beads on a mala, the steps to a temple, the layers of a mandala. It is completion, wholeness, a circle closing into itself. And so, this road is more than engineering. It is pilgrimage by design. Each curve a reminder, each bend a bow, until finally, at over 5,000 meters, you reach Gowula Pass. The air is razor thin, breath comes shallow. Prayer flags whip like wings in the wind, their colors carrying chants across the void. And then, the horizon opens. Before you stands a wall of white, the Himalayas, 5 of the tallest peaks on Earth, shoulder to shoulder, their summits piercing the sky. Everest, Lhasa, Makalu, Cho-Oyu, Shishapangma, names that feel less like mountains and more like gods revealed. Behind you, the road coils back down the slope like a silver thread. Ahead, the giants rise, unshakable, eternal. Standing at Gowula, you feel the truth of the journey. That enlightenment is not always found at the destination, but in the climb itself. In the patience it takes to round every curve. In the humility it takes to face mountains that will never be conquered by speed, only by reverence. And so, the 108 bends are not just a path across rock. They are a path inward, a reminder that sometimes the road itself is the teaching. From Gowula Pass, the road continues west, climbing higher into air so thin it feels almost fragile. Villages fade, fields vanish, and soon there is only stone, wind, and sky. And then, the horizon shifts. A single peak rises above all others, Everest. Chomolungma, the goddess mother of the world. Even from a distance, it dominates everything. 8,848 meters of ice and rock, so immense it seems less like a mountain and more like the spine of the planet itself. At over 5,000 meters, Everest Base Camp is where most journeys end. The ground is bare and harsh, a plateau of rock and wind pressed against the sky. The air holds half the oxygen of sea level, every breath shallow, every step heavy. For climbers, this is just the beginning. For everyone else, it is enough simply to stand here, to feel the weight of scale. Prayer flags snap in the wind, their colors stretching toward the summit, as if even cloth knows where to bow. The Rongbuk Monastery sits nearby, a humble cluster of walls and courtyards resting in the shadow of the greatest peak on earth. Here, monks chant quietly, their voices carrying through the thin air, a reminder that even in the face of such magnitude, devotion endures. Looking up, Everest feels impossibly close, yet impossibly distant. Its summit glows white in the sun, then disappears into cloud, as if reminding us that the mountain does not belong to us. It is not ours to conquer. It is ours to witness. To stand at base camp is to feel two things at once: how small you are, and how infinite the world can be. The mountain does not move, does not bend, does not explain itself. It simply is. And in that presence, you understand why Tibetans see Everest not as a challenge, but as a goddess, a guardian between earth and sky, a wall of heaven that humbles all who approach. From the stone and wind of base camp, the road begins to descend. The peaks still loom above, but slowly, color returns to the earth. This is Tingri, a quiet stretch of farmland spread across the plateau, lying in the shadow of Everest itself. At over 4,000 meters, life here should feel impossible. The air is thin, the seasons short, the soil stubborn and cold, and yet the fields endure. Barley sways under the wind, Potatoes push through hard ground. Yaks plow the soil, their hooves pressing ancient furrows just as they have for centuries. From a distance, the scene looks simple, but simplicity here is survival. Every harvest is a triumph, every stalk of barley a quiet defiance against the harshness of the plateau. Children chase each other between stone walls. Women hang prayer flags above rooftops, their colors catching in the breeze. Old men sit at the edge of fields, their faces carved by sun and wind, watching the horizon where Everest rises like a silent guardian. For the people of Tingri, the mountain is not just a sight, it is a presence. It watches over every planting, every prayer, every breath. Life is lived in its shadow, but not in its fear. Instead, there is balance, a rhythm between work and worship, between tending the earth and honoring the sky. Standing here, you realize that Everest's greatness is not measured only by its height, but by the way it shapes everything beneath it. The fields, the villages, and the quiet persistence of those who call this place home. Tingri is proof that even under the weight of giants, life can root itself, grow, and endure. East of the high plains, the land opens into a valley broad and fertile, the Yarlung. Here, barley fields ripple in the wind, their rhythm unchanged for over 1,000 years. It is said this was the first soil ever cultivated in Tibet, the ground where people first turned wilderness into home. Above these fields, perched on a rocky ridge, stands Yungbulagang Palace, a slender structure of white and ochre. It rises like a watchtower of memory. Locals say it was Tibet's very first building, raised for Nyingchi Tsangpo, the first king of Tibet, a figure born more of myth than of history. From here, Tibet's story began. Royal tombs still dot the valley, silent mounds guarding the bones of ancient rulers. Carvings etched into cliffs tell of battles, of alliances, of the slow weaving of a kingdom. But Yungbulagang is more than a palace. It is a mirror of Tibet's transformation. What began as a fortress of kings was later turned into a temple by Songtsen Gampo, the ruler who brought Buddhism into the heart of the land. Its halls once echoed with footsteps of warriors and later with the chants of monks. Stone gave way to scripture. Power gave way to prayer. Standing here, you feel that transition, the shift from throne to altar, from sovereignty to spirituality. The palace itself is modest, but its legacy looms vast. It was in this valley, too, that the Tibetan script was first devised in the 7th century, not for trade or decree, but to translate the sacred words of Sanskrit. Language, once a tool of power, became a vessel of faith, and with it, Tibet found its identity. The Yarlung Valley holds these layers still. Fields swaying with barley, palace walls weathered by wind, temples glowing with prayer lamps. It is less a place to visit and more a place to remember, where history and myth blur and where a civilization first found its voice. High on the plateau, cradled between snow-capped peaks and rolling grasslands, lies Yamdrok Lake, a body of water so vividly blue it feels less like earth and more like sky fallen to the ground. The Tibetans call it the turquoise heart. From above, its shape twists across the landscape like a living form, arms reaching into valleys, veins curling between ridges. Some say it resembles a scorpion. Others see the outline of a guardian spirit, but all agree it is alive. Legend tells that Yamdrok is the transformation of a goddess, her body becoming water, her spirit bound to the survival of Tibet. It is said that if the lake were ever to dry, life on the plateau would vanish with it. And so, every ripple, every glimmer of turquoise light is more than beauty, it is destiny. Pilgrims circle its shores in silence. Some stop to kneel, scooping the icy water into their palms, touching it to their foreheads as blessing. Monks chant along the cliffs above, their voices carried across the surface like wind. In their belief, the lake is not only sacred, it is an oracle, a mirror where the will of the divine can be seen. On rare days, a small heart-shaped pool appears on one peninsula, visible only when the light strikes at the right angle. Locals whisper that it is the goddess herself, revealing her hidden heart. The atmosphere here is unlike anywhere else on the plateau. The air feels gentler, the silence softer. Even the light seems to bend, turning the water from deep sapphire in the morning to turquoise fire at noon, to liquid silver at dusk. Standing on its shore, you feel more than awe. You feel watched, as though the lake is not reflecting you, but studying you. And in that gaze, you sense what Tibetans have known for centuries. That Yamdrok is not a place, it is a presence, a heartbeat, ancient and eternal, still pulsing in the chest of the plateau. Clinging to a sheer cliff in Lunzhub County, so high it seems one strong wind could sweep it away, stands Siling Monastery. From a distance it looks impossible, a cluster of white walls pressed against bare rock, a fragile creation suspended between earth and air. The kind of place you can't simply arrive at. You have to earn it. The path is narrow, carved straight into the mountainside. Steps rise steep and uneven, each one demanding focus. Every turn feels like a test, not just of strength but of intention. Because here, the journey itself is prayer. At the top, the monastery is modest. Small rooms more like caves than halls, their stone walls cool to the touch, their silence heavy with centuries of meditation. This was never meant to be a grand complex. It was built as a refuge, a place for solitude, for voices that chose silence. Once, it was only a hermit's retreat. Over time, it grew into a monastery of the Nyingma tradition. But its spirit never changed. It still feels more like a hidden sanctuary than a temple, a place where monks come not to be seen, but to disappear, into stillness, into prayer, into the mountain itself. From the ledge, the view opens wide. Below, forests stretch like a green sea. Beyond, snowy ridges rise like guardians, and above, only sky, vast, empty, eternal. Locals say prayers offered here rise more easily, as if the mountain itself carries them upward, beyond the clouds, into the silence of heaven. To stand at Siling is to understand a different kind of faith. Not the faith of crowds and rituals, but the faith of solitude. The willingness to step away from the world, to let go of its noise, and to dwell in the quiet, where even the whisper of wind feels like scripture. The road to Ganden winds upward through bare ridges, switchbacks curling like threads of devotion across the mountain. And then, at more than 4,300 meters, the monastery appears, a crown of white and gold resting against the sky. Founded in 1409 by Tsongkhapa, the great reformer of Tibetan Buddhism, Ganden is one of the three seats of learning, a monastery not just of prayer, but of philosophy, debate, and spiritual discipline. For centuries, its courtyards echoed with voices, young monks reciting scripture, elders guiding them through questions of life and meaning. To walk inside is to step into a living archive of devotion. Golden roofs glint in the sun. Prayer flags stretch across ridges, their colors carrying words too vast for stone alone. At the heart lies Tsongkhapa's silver and gold tomb stupa, encircled by pilgrims who circle endlessly, their hands brushing prayer wheels, their chants rising into the thin air. But Ganden is not untouched by history. During the Cultural Revolution, its halls were shattered, its statues torn down, its scriptures scattered to the wind. What was once a thriving monastery was reduced to ruins. And yet, faith endured. Monks who fled returned to rebuild. Stone by stone, prayer by prayer, they raised Ganden once more. Today its walls are both new and ancient, carrying scars, but also carrying resilience. Standing here, you feel more than the weight of centuries. You feel the pulse of continuity, that even when torn down, belief can rise again. That devotion is not bound to stone, but carried in memory, in voice, in the will to rebuild. From Ganden's high terraces, the view stretches far across the plateau. Mountains roll into distance, valleys glow with light, and the wind whips through the prayer flags like 1,000 voices lifted at once. Here, sky, mountain, and spirit meet. Here, Tibet's soul finds its center. And in that center, you sense what has always been true. That faith, though tested, never disappears. It only waits, quiet, until it is ready to rise again. At 3,650 meters above sea level, Lhasa rests high among the mountains, a city closer to the sky than most places on Earth. Its very name means the place of the gods, and when you arrive, you understand why. Pilgrims come from every corner of Tibet, some walking for weeks, some for months, others prostrating themselves the entire way, measuring the journey with their bodies, step by step, until they finally reach this holy city. The heart of Lhasa beats within the Palkhor circuit. Here, devotion becomes motion. Pilgrims circle the Jokhang temple, their prayer wheels spinning, their whispers rising like a river of faith. The temple itself, built in the 7th century, is the holiest in Tibet. Inside, the Jowo Shakyamuni statue glows in candlelight, a golden gaze believed to carry the blessing of the Buddha himself. For many Tibetans, a lifetime of prayer culminates in this single glimpse. But Lhasa is not only sacred halls. It is also the Potala Palace, 13 stories of stone and wood, perched on Red Hill like a fortress of faith. Once the winter home of the Dalai Lamas, it held both spiritual and political power for centuries. Over 1,000 rooms lie within its walls, chapels filled with relics, libraries of sacred texts, and golden stupas of past Dalai Lamas, each one a monument of devotion and continuity. At sunrise, the Potala emerges from the mist, its white and red walls glowing against the mountains. At night, it shines under the stars, a beacon not just of architecture but of endurance. Despite the changes and challenges that have swept across Tibet, Lhasa remains unmoved in its essence. Tradition does not fade here. It adapts. It rises. Every incense curl drifting from temple courtyards, every hand that spins a prayer wheel, every flag that flutters against the sky, they all say the same thing, that faith, even when tested, does not vanish. It continues, quietly, faithfully, always upward. And so Lhasa stands, not just as a city, but as a living reminder that the spirit of Tibet, like the mountains around it, endures. In the center of Lhasa, where the Palkhor circuit winds in endless devotion, stands a temple unlike any other, the Jokhang. Built in the 7th century by King Songtsen Gampo, it has watched over Tibet for more than a millennium. Its walls are darkened by centuries of butter lamps, its floors polished smooth by the knees and hands of pilgrims who have bowed here for generations. To the Tibetan people, this is not just a temple, it is the very heart of their faith. Inside, the air is heavy with incense, golden light flickers across statues and murals. Monks chant in low, steady voices, their sound like a river flowing through stone. And at the center of it all stands the Jowo Shakyamuni, Tibet's most sacred statue. Believed to be blessed by the Buddha himself, the Jowo is not merely an image but a presence. Pilgrims weep when they see it. Some journey their entire lives for this single glimpse, believing that in the gaze of the Jowo, a lifetime of prayer is fulfilled. Outside, the devotion continues. Pilgrims circle the temple on the Palkhor Kora. Some spin prayer wheels, their lips whispering mantras. Others prostrate themselves fully, their bodies hitting the ground, then rising again. Each movement slow, painful, yet full of meaning. Day and night, the Jokhang never rests. Its courtyards echo with footsteps, its rooftops flutter with flags, its doorways glow with lamps. And all of it, every gesture, every offering, flows into one truth, that this place is the pulse of Tibetan Buddhism. Standing here, you realize that faith in Tibet is not abstract. It is lived, breathed, embodied in movement, in sound, in silence. The Jokhang is proof, not just of belief, but of its endurance. A reminder that even in a changing world, the heart of Tibet still beats, steadily, quietly, and forever. Rising above the city of Lhasa, set upon Red Hill like a crown of stone and light, stands the Potala Palace. 13 stories tall, with over 1,000 rooms, it dominates the skyline, its white and red walls glowing in the thin air of the plateau. For centuries, this was more than architecture. It was the winter residence of the Dalai Lamas, the seat where spiritual vision and temporal power converged. Here, faith and governance intertwined, turning the palace into both a sanctuary and a stronghold. The Red Palace holds relics and scriptures, its chambers filled with golden stupas of past Dalai Lamas, silent guardians of a lineage that shaped Tibet's soul. The White Palace, by contrast, once served as the seat of government, where decisions of state were made under the gaze of sacred thangkas and flickering butter lamps. To walk its halls is to feel the layering of centuries. Incense still clings to the stones. Whispers of chanting seem to linger in the air. Every stairway feels worn by countless footsteps. Monks, pilgrims, leaders, all moving upward, always upward, towards something greater than themselves. And yet, Potala is not frozen in the past. It still breathes. Each morning as sunlight strikes its walls, prayer flags ripple on the ridges, their colors rising with the wind. Each evening as the city quiets, the palace glows like an ember in the dark, reminding Lhasa that tradition is not a relic, but a living flame. To stand before Potala is to feel awe, but also continuity. Empires may fade, fortresses may crumble, but this one endures. Not because of its walls, but because of what it holds, the unshakable belief of a people. At sunrise, when the palace emerges through mountain mist, it is not just stone that rises. It is faith itself, layered, unbroken, still climbing skyward. Tibet is more than mountains and monasteries. It is a land where silence speaks, where faith and nature breathe as one. As our journey comes to an end, we carry with us not only images of vast skies and sacred peaks, but also a quiet reminder that some places are meant not to be conquered, but simply to be felt. Until the next journey, stay curious, stay open, and let the spirit of Tibet remain with you.